This isn't just a story, it's a cry from the soul of nature. Imagine a world where the unyielding laws of the wild press down upon life itself, where survival is etched in tooth and claw and mercy is rarely written into its script. The savannah was burning gold under the ruthless sun, its silence pierced by a scene no heart could ever forget. On the gnarled branch of a parched tree, like a noose carved by fate, a colossal rock python had wrapped itself in a suffocating embrace. Around something small, fragile, and innocent. A lion cub, trembling, writhing, its breath waning under coils as merciless as iron chains. Each ripple of the snake's muscle tightened with cold intent, and the sky above seemed to hold its breath in horror. Below the tree, her golden mane, blazing with despair, the lioness roared, not the thunderous declaration of a queen of the wild, but a cry of broken helplessness, a plea that shattered the air itself. Her eyes, fierce yet drowning in agony, fixed on the fading spark of her cub's life. Her claws raked the dry earth, pacing in circles, desperate yet powerless. What does it mean when the strongest predator in the land, the sovereign of the savannah, is rendered powerless before the silent cruelty of fate? What would you do if your very soul, your child, your heart, dangled untouchable before your eyes? The Bible whispers, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And in that moment, under the merciless sun, the lioness's roar was more than grief. It was prayer in its rawest form, a soul crying for a miracle, a heart-wrenching, tear-igniting plea that turned the savannah into a stage where heaven itself was watching. But then the story turned. Because sometimes the most extraordinary heroes emerge not with teeth or claws, but with eyes that see deeper than instinct. Amid the swaying grass in the shadow of that cursed tree sat a colossal gorilla, silent as stone. Its broad chest rose and fell with calm breaths, its black eyes fixed on the unfolding tragedy above. At first it seemed a bystander, another figure painted into the grand canvas of the wild. But then the lioness turned, her eyes meeting his. The fire of authority was gone. What remained was a mother's plea, raw and pure. She let out a roar unlike any other, not a threat, not a warning, but a sob, a trembling note of surrender. She begged. And in that plea, the boundaries of species, of savanna and forest, of predator and primate, all dissolved into dust. What is pride when a life trembles on the edge of nothingness? What is law when love itself calls for help? The gorilla's gaze, deep as rivers carved by time, did not turn away. Something passed between them, unseen yet undeniable, the sacred recognition of shared sorrow. The lioness's eyes spoke the language older than creation itself. Save. This cub, save what I cannot reach. And the gorilla, in the silence of the savannah, seemed to answer without words. The Bible reminds us, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Galatians 6:2. In that strange, impossible communion between lion and gorilla, the burden of love was shared. And the world paused, waiting for the choice of one giant heart. The moment broke. The gorilla shifted, its massive muscles rippling as it rose like a shadow come alive. It did not rise for battle, but for rescue. The savannah hushed, the very wind stilled as if the universe itself leaned closer. With deliberate resolve, the gorilla's hands clenched, knuckles like carved stone, before it moved towards the tree. Climbing was not its nature here, not upon the parched bark of this savannah stranger, yet love gave it wings of determination. Each movement upward was a defiance, against instinct, against danger, against the python's suffocating claim. The great snake, sensing intrusion, coiled tighter, squeezing the cub until its cries thinned into whispers. Its lidless eyes turned cold upon the gorilla, ready to strike. Yet the giant did not falter. Higher and higher it climbed, until branch and danger became one. Then, with a voice that thundered like a storm breaking the silence, the gorilla roared. Not a roar of hunger, not of violence, but of unyielding will, a defiance of death itself. Its massive hands, crafted by creation for gentleness and strength, clamped down upon the serpent's body. With a force born not of violence, but of Mercy, it began to pry, finger by finger, muscle against muscle, tearing open the steel-like embrace. Below, the lioness roared her encouragement, her cries echoing like a choir of desperation and hope. Above, the python writhed, fangs bared, tightening its prison. Yet the gorilla did not relent. He pulled with the weight of mountains, his muscles trembling with the struggle. It was no predator's fight. It was the fight of a guardian. And in those brutal, breathless seconds, something eternal was written in the fabric of the wild, the bond of humanity and animal, the miracle of sacrifice. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends, than a crack in fate. With one final surge, the gorilla tore apart the suffocating coils. The cub slipped free, gasping, its tiny chest rising once more, with fragile breaths of life. The lioness below roared, not in pain, but in a cry that shook the sky, a roar of salvation, of gratitude, of a mother's heart restored. The python, broken and enraged, lashed out, striking with the fury of venomless wrath. But the gorilla, towering, unflinching, bared his chest and met its fury with unshakable strength. With a final heave, he hurled the serpent to the ground, its coils unraveling in defeat. The savannah erupted into silence again, but this time it was the silence of awe. The gorilla, chest heaving, did not claim victory. He only looked down, his black eyes meeting the lioness's golden ones once. More! She lowered her head, not as predator, not as queen, but as a mother bowed in eternal gratitude. The cub, nestled once again beneath her, mewed softly, alive, a miracle against all odds. And the gorilla? He simply turned, climbing down with no triumph, only quiet dignity, before melting into the grasslands, a shadow of mercy that left behind more than survival. He left behind proof that in the heart of the wild beats the same truth as in us. Compassion stronger than fear, love stronger than death. And so, the savannah remembered that day not as a tale of predator and prey, but as a hymn of humanity written into the wilderness itself. A lioness's helpless roar had become a prayer, a gorilla's strength had become its answer, and a cub's fragile breath became the living testimony of a miracle. This was not just an animal rescue, it was an emotional true story, a survival against all odds, a wild bond that transcended every barrier. It was a touching animal story that whispered to our souls, a heartwarming animal video the world would never forget. A dramatic wildlife rescue that redefined the human and animal connection. And in that final moment, as the sun dipped low and painted the savannah in gold, one truth shone brighter than all. Love is the only law that matters. And love had one. This isn't just a story, it's a hymn written by the heart of the wild. Imagine the savannah, its breath heavy, its silence trembling as life itself hung on the edge of fate. The python's coils, thick as ancient ropes, had nearly drained the cub's last breath. Yet within that impossible struggle, the gorilla's hands became instruments of mercy. They pulled, they wrenched, they twisted, not with rage, but with an invisible force deeper than strength, an iron born of compassion. The creature fought not for itself, not for dominance, but for life. Then, in one final surge, destiny broke, the coils loosened, the serpent faltered, and the tiny cub slipped free. Falling helplessly through the dry air, the cub seemed destined to shatter, but in a lightning leap, the lioness caught her child in trembling arms. The savannah exhaled a collective sigh. A miracle had unfolded beneath the burning sky. The cub, battered yet alive, pressed against his mother's chest, his faint heartbeat echoing hope. And the lioness, tears of relief hidden in her golden eyes, licked his ragged fur with trembling devotion. Her roar followed, not fierce, not threatening, but soft, low, and reverent, a roar of gratitude, of respect, of love that transcended every boundary carved into nature's law. The Bible says, "Two are better than one. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up." That day, the savannah itself witnessed this truth. Predator and primate, mother and stranger, two lives woven together by the invisible hand of compassion. And yet, as powerful as the moment was, it did not linger for glory. The gorilla did not stand to receive the worship of the queen of beasts. Nor did it wait for recognition from the horizon that watched in awe. Instead, its silence spoke louder than any roar. With calm dignity, the giant descended from the tree. Each movement downward was deliberate, measured, as though it wished not to disturb the fragile peace it had restored. At the base it turned once, its deep black eyes resting upon the lioness. Between them, no longer predator and prey, no longer strangers bound by fear, only respect remained. A bond unspoken, carved in eternity. And then, without a sound, the gorilla turned away. It melted back into the tall grasses, its broad shadow disappearing into the heart of the savannah. The lioness, her cub pressed against her chest, watched in reverence. And when the last trace of the gorilla vanished, she lowered her head to the earth in a gesture few would believe possible, gratitude pure and profound. The wild itself had witnessed a miracle, and it bowed. Blessed are the merciful. They shall receive mercy. That day became more than a tale of survival. It became a living testament that compassion is stronger than instinct, that love can break the hardest chains, and that greatness is measured not in dominance but in the courage to care. The gorilla had no reason to intervene, no personal gain, in saving a cub that did not belong to his world. And yet, something far deeper than instinct compelled him. Empathy, the spark of shared existence, the whisper of humanity hidden in the heart of every living being. In that moment, the gorilla was not just an animal. He was a bridge between worlds. He reminded us that, even in the fiercest wilderness, there lies a thread connecting us all, the thread of compassion. This was more than an animal rescue. It was an emotional true story, a wild miracle, a heartwarming animal video that would echo across generations. It was a dramatic wildlife rescue that redefined the meaning of human and animal connection. And in its echo, we hear the question that lingers for us. When compassion calls, will we answer? Because in life, we may all stand in the roles written by that savannah day. We may be the desperate lioness watching helplessly as what we love. Most slips beyond our reach. We may be the cub, fragile and breathless, praying for a savior to break the chains of fate. Or we may be the gorilla, the one who sees pain, feels it, and chooses to act. And sometimes we may even be the silent observer, standing on the edge of another story, waiting for the courage to cross the boundary that separates us. What matters is not the role we are given, but the choice we make when faced with another's suffering. Do we turn away, claiming it is not our burden? Or do we, like the gorilla, step into the fire, risking everything to pull another soul back from the abyss? The Bible whispers, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." The story of that lioness, her cub, the python, and the gorilla is not just nature's tale, it is humanity's mirror. It shows us that kindness knows no species, no border, no law but love. It reminds us that in a divided world, unity is still possible, born in the most unexpected of places. And it teaches us that greatness is never measured in the power to take life, but in the courage to protect it. That day, the gorilla proved that mercy is the strongest force of all. The lioness proved that even the proudest heart can humble itself in desperation. And the cub proved that life itself is worth every battle fought for it. So, if this story moved you, let it be more than just a tale you watched. Let it be a reminder of the power you hold to change another life. If it sparked even the smallest flicker of hope in your heart, press that like button, not for us, but to echo the roar of gratitude across the world. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that miracles are real, that compassion is alive, that humanity and the wild are not so different after all. And subscribe to our channel where more emotional true stories, animal miracles, and heart-touching animal videos await, each a reminder of the hidden depths of connection. Encouraged. Now we ask you, what moment in your life revealed the surprising strength of compassion? Was it a time you saved, or were saved? Tell us in the comments below. Because just as the savannah remembered the day a gorilla saved a lion cub, your story may remind someone else that love still wins. And in a world often torn apart by fear and division, that reminder is the truest miracle of all. This isn't just the end of a story. It is the birth of a truth that will outlive the savannah itself. The dust has settled, the cries have faded, and in the golden silence of that wild horizon, a miracle remains. A cub, once wrapped in the shadow of death, now breathes in the arms of its mother. A lioness, once broken and helpless, now purrs, with the strength of love restored. And a gorilla, whose immense power could have been used to dominate, chose instead to save, walking away quietly, leaving no claim, no throne, no glory, only a legacy written in the language of compassion. The Bible reminds us, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That day, compassion was the light. And it was stronger than fear, stronger than instinct, stronger than death itself. The lioness's roar of gratitude still echoes across the plains, not as the cry of a predator, but as the song of a mother who has been given back her heart. The cub's fragile heartbeat is a reminder that even the smallest life carries infinite worth. And the gorilla's quiet departure whispers the greatest truth of all, that kindness asks for nothing in return. This was more than an animal rescue. It was an emotional true story, a wild miracle, a heartwarming animal video that spoke to the soul of humanity. It was proof that survival is not the highest law of the wild. Love is. And in that moment, when the queen of the savannah bowed her head to the guardian of the forest, we saw it clearly. The bond between animals and humanity is not bound by blood, nor species, nor distance. It is bound by the courage to care. So let this story live in you. Let it remind you that greatness does not roar in dominance, but whispers in compassion. That miracles are not always lightning striking the earth, but sometimes the quiet choice of one heart to save another. If this moment touched you, share it, carry it, pass it on. For the world needs more reminders that kindness is still alive, still breathing, still strong enough to change fate. And as the sun sets over the savannah, painting the sky in hues of hope, we are left with a truth that humbles us all. Love is the only law that matters. And love always wins.